edition of Service News. Water ingress through the sunroof on Rover 200. Rectification for a first-time repair. Transmission whine on Rover 800. A simple cure. New Service Insight video programs to help you on the Rover 800. And details of not one but 4 competitions, including our own Service News competition. Have you won the video recorder?
Hello and welcome to Service News. We start the programme on a continental note with details of the National Autocourse 87 winners. The 11 masterclass winners and their partners attended a celebration dinner at the Heathrow Penta Hotel. Roy Davis, Austin Rover's UK Service Director, and Stan Thompson, Unipart's UK Sales Manager, presented each masterclass winner with a plaque for the service and parts courses, respectively. The next day, it was on the plane to Mallorca. If you fancy your chances of winning a place on a trip like that next year, there's still a chance to enrol on Autocourse 88. Many of the courses have been updated to incorporate the latest information. The 2 electrics courses are totally new for 1988, and the automatic transmissions course has been reintroduced. If you want to enrol, send your form in today.
3 technical bulletin items have already been released on the subject of water ingress through Rover 200 sunroofs. These are item numbers 920, 010 and 016. Here's a quick guide to the rectification procedure you should follow. First of all, make sure that the car is standing on level ground in preparation for the water tests, and check that the suspension trim height isn't set too high. Then you can begin the water test using a hose pipe or watering can. Remove excess water from the glass and wind back the hatch to see where the water is lying. If the water rests above the drain channel next to the headlining, remove the glass hatch following the instructions in the body section of the repair manual and retest the hatch off the car. If during this test water penetrates between the glass and the seal, refit a new sunroof assembly. If water seems to be draining away satisfactorily, but the headlining is wet at the rear centre of the tray, replace the blend seal following the procedure laid down in Technical Bulletin items 920 and 010. Make sure you secure the seal with suitable adhesive. Finally, if water drains away from the front and rear, but a pool remains in the centre of the tray, you'll have to remove the headlining and the whole sunroof cassette. Cut off the centre fixing brackets and file a recess into the top flange on the cassette. This fixing is only used during production to help with assembly. Next, remove the side brackets and file out the cant rail fixing bolt slot. This will prevent the washer fouling on the angle of the bracket and pushing the cassette up. If the drain pipes at the front of the cassette protrude too far, grind them back flush with the cassette. Once you've done all that, etch, prime and paint the black areas filed and ground away in the previous 2 operations. Then clean any remaining swarf from the drain tray. Having carried out all the necessary rectification, you must make sure you refit the sunroof properly or you will still have a problem. Be sure to check the foam seal for damage or a poor fit and replace if necessary when refitting the sunroof. Securing the bolts at each side loosely, align the front pop rivet fixing. Push the rear of the sunroof cassette up to within 10 mm of the roof panel reinforcement. Then tighten the cant rail fixing bolt and the bracket to cassette bolt. Meanwhile, place the front of the cassette in the lowest position that the bracket slot will allow and make sure that the centre fixing recess won't rub against the shoulder of the stud. Now tighten the cant rail fixing bolt and bracket to cassette bolt. This should be slack enough to allow the bracket to slide whilst the cant rail bolt is tightened. There should be white 3 mm spacers fitted above the front fixings. If not, select washers to suit, then refit and tighten the bolts. To improve the flow of water from the front drain tubes, slice off the restricting sections of the drain tubes. Technical Bulletin Item 016 deals with this operation. Test this by pouring water directly into the drain channels on both sides of the car. This water should drain correctly. If there's still a pool, loosen all the bolts attaching the sunroof cassette to the car and repeat the sequence. Once drainage is satisfactory, replace the pop rivets on the front of the cassette, then check the alignment of the glass hatch. The seal should fit slightly tighter at the rear to prevent fouling on the front of the roof during the tilt operation. Finally, adjust the height of the glass hatch if required. A new trophy was awarded this year to the winner of the very first Service Receptionist of the Year competition. From a total of 1,500 entrants, 5 regional finalists attended a tough one-day session at Studley Castle in Warwickshire to find the eventual winner. 5 exercises were set to assess the contestants' capabilities, including a role-play test where each person was confronted by 3 irate customers in a service reception environment, as well as a multitude of telephone calls to cope with at the same time. It was difficult to separate the 5 finalists. Each one led the field at different stages of the competition. But the eventual winner was Shirley Johnston of Southern Brothers, Blackburn. As the first winner of the award, Shirley was presented with the trophy by Roy Davis at the Autocourse 87 dinner at the Penta Hotel, Heathrow Airport. She and her husband also joined the masterclass winners on the trip to Mallorca. Congratulations both to Shirley and to Southern Brothers on their achievement. In fact, congratulations to all who entered for achieving such high standards. Hopefully, next year's competition will prove just as successful.
You'll recently have received 2 new Service Insight video training programs. PGM-FI, which studies the fuel injection system fitted to the 2.5-litre V6 engine, and the most recent video release, Rover 800 Electric's The Logical Way. This program sets out to overcome initial fears of what at first sight seems to be a complicated mass of electronics and electrical wiring. The message throughout is to treat fault diagnosis logically and to break electrical systems down into manageable portions. The program also introduces new style fault diagnosis literature with a new approach to electrical wiring diagrams. This program is a must for all technicians. You may recently have heard about Service Charter and its proposals to change the face of Austin Rover's after-sales service policy. Presentations are currently taking place around the country, and all relevant literature is being updated to take in the policy changes. A major step towards improving contact with your customers is the introduction of a 6,000-mile lubrication service. This consists of an oil and filter change, together with a check of safety-related items and a functional road test. The customer will only pay for materials on the first 6,000-mile lubrication service, but on all subsequent services, both labour and materials will be charged for. The important thing to note is that there will be no oil change at the after-sales service on any model. So the 1,000-mile service therefore becomes totally free of charge to the customer. And the oil and filter change now occurs at 6,000, 18,000, 30,000 miles and so on. These new servicing procedures will apply to all vehicles registered on or after the 1st of January 1988. A single maintenance check sheet has been designed to cover all current models and incorporates all the latest changes. We'll keep you up to date with the progress of Service Charter and go through it in more detail at a later date. Now details of the winner of the Young Mechanic of the Year Award for 1987. The title goes to Andrew Delaney of T Startin Limited of Birmingham. He beat 3 other finalists, all from different motor franchises, during a series of very tough tests involving practical aptitude, technical knowledge and ability to cope under stress. The 2-day final took place at Montego, the Road Transport Industry Training Board's education centre near Telford, and the trophy was presented to Andrew by Service Director Roy Davis, who was guest VIP. Andrew's triumph means that he goes forward to represent the UK in the International Youth Skills Olympics in Sydney, Australia next year. We wish him all the best.
To help you in your quest for right first-time repairs, 3 new fastcheck units have been developed. First, the relay tester, which was demonstrated in the latest Service Insight video program, Rover 800 Electrics, and is capable of testing 20 or so different types of relay and control units. This is a major new step forward from the time-consuming substitution method. Second, an alternator fast check, which not only checks the health of the battery, but by making a very simple connection, gives you the information on the rate of charge from the alternator plus its maximum output. Finally, the in-car entertainment fast check, which makes easy work of electronic radio cassette players. This unit tests both power and memory supply into the radio cassette players. It also checks the continuity and earthing of both types of aerials, plus driving the speakers through a frequency range to test for distortion and resonation. These 3 latest fast check testers from Service Technology come with a full range of step-by-step instructions and keep you one step ahead in the field of electronic fault diagnosis. A visual check at PDI has been devised for all Maestros and Montegos fitted with Tudor Webasto glass sunroofs. We'll go through the check for you. First, the profile of the sunroof. The front edge should lie flush to 1.5 millimeters below the roof of the car. The rear edge should lie flush to 1.5 millimeters above the roof line. The maximum overcrowning of the sunroof at the center should be 2 millimeters. Next, the blind action. There should be an 11 millimeter gap between the tray flange and the blend to prevent the blind sticking at the front. If the blind is stiff or it judders when operated, check to see if the Velcro strips have rolled up under the rear drain channel. If the blind is loose or it rattles, again check that the Velcro strips are correctly fitted and that the blind is lying properly in the slide rails at the rear. Now check the operation of the lid. If the operation of tilt mode is stiff, jamming or uneven, check the mechanism synchromesh. If winding back the sunroof is stiff or seized completely, make sure the gearbox teeth aren't stripped. Then check for damage or incorrect fitment of the calypso pin. Finally, check that the guide blocks haven't come adrift and that the mechanism isn't out of synchromesh. After this, test the closing of the sunroof. If grabbing or incorrect lock-off occurs, check that the lid isn't too big and that it isn't fouling the deflector. Also check that the calypso ends don't foul the deflector and that the gearbox setting and mechanism are in synchromesh. If the deflector is fouling the lid, make sure that it lies forward of the grommets at the center line. To overcome the problem, a modified shorter deflector has been introduced from VIN number 48500 on Maestro and 377126 on Montego. If the blend screws foul the deflector, reset it forward. Any damage to the deflector should be repainted. When you wind back into tilt mode, check the blend for cracks in the two front corners. If the sunroof handle fouls the escutcheon, check that all handle and escutcheon screws are tight. And that the escutcheon is clipped up to the headliner at the front. Finally, check the lid seal butt joint for gaps or misalignment and make sure the headliner trim to aperture seal is tidy. Some owners of Rover 820 models may have complained of transmission whine at certain road speeds. The problem has been identified as normal transmission noise transmitted via the left-hand driveshaft to the vehicle interior. Engineers at Service HQ have found a simple cure for this problem. A mass damper placed halfway along the driveshaft stops any noise reaching the interior. This damper and fitting parts are available as a kit, part number BHM 7402. Remove the left-hand driveshaft and without damaging the gaiter, remove both clips from the outboard joint. Peel back the gaiter and bend the joint down, exposing the inner race. Using a copper drift against the inner race, knock the joint off. Remove the spring rings from both ends of the shaft and discard them. Clean the shaft thoroughly, then lubricate the damper bore and the full length of the shaft with liquid soap. With the driveshaft upright in a vise, slide the damper on, flange uppermost, until it's 45 millimeters from the inboard gaiter. In the kit, there are two clips of a similar size. The one for the damper is slightly larger. Remove any traces of soap from the shaft and using a new spring ring, the thinner of the two supplied in the kit, replace the outboard joint, making sure it's fully home. Replace any lost grease and replace the gaiter. When replacing the shaft, use the coloured spring ring supplied, making sure the spring ring locates securely in the gearbox and that the new stake nut is used on the outer end of the shaft.
And now, to end this edition of Service News, the winners of the Service News competition. You'll remember back in July we set 6 questions, all relating to previous editions of Service News, plus a tiebreaker asking you to describe in not more than 50 words your role in customer satisfaction. We had quite a number of correct answers, so the final decision rested on the tiebreaker. Roy Davis came up with the winning entry from Mr. David Hoborough, workshop foreman of Cliff Smart Limited, Rubina, near Cardiff, South Wales. When he described his role in customer satisfaction, he emphasised treating each customer as individuals first. He placed a lot of importance on listening to customers, and through the ability to diagnose right first time, his customers gained confidence in Cliff Smart Limited and the Austin Rover product. David's prize, a VHS video recorder with 5 blank cassettes, was presented to him on Friday the 13th of November by Keith Day, Service Manager of Western Region, and Chris Walker, Field Service Engineer, which just goes to show that Friday the 13th is a lucky day for some people. Well done, David. And that rounds up this edition of Service News. See you again soon.